coronavirus and this really, I would say, pandemic that has that is destroying our industry, if you will. And what I'm witnessing right now is quite troubling. On one hand, you see true ingenuity and creativeness by some hoteliers, and I'll elaborate more on that. And then on the other hand, you see defeatism and completely like a lack of clue, if you will, expressed by some other hoteliers. I mean, in New York City, 1/3 of hoteliers only are open. The 2/3 are practically closed. The same is around the country in many locations like this. And again, hoteliers are not doing, I would say, what they need to do right now, because there are a lot of things that hoteliers can do as we speak in this very moment. And then, in order to prepare, first of all, to soften the blow, if you will, by the coronavirus tragedy, and on the other hand, to prepare for the post-crisis period. And on the other hand, we're talking about hoteliers need to start planning their post-crisis strategy, action plan, and so forth. And these are the two things. What can you do now, and what should you be planning for after the crisis? And again, it's all about the coronavirus. It's not about the weather. It's not about some aliens coming to planet Earth. It's very concrete, and it's hurting all of us. So that's let's talk about these two topics.
Wonderful. So exactly. I thought we were going to talk about why sale of top apparel is going, right? People are not buying pants and anything anymore because you don't need it.
Just
Everybody
shirts.
has
Shirts.
only the shirts, right? No, just kidding. So yes, we'll talk about crisis. We'll talk about recovery, and then we'll talk about growth and what are the specific things we should do. What we are seeing across the globe. Milestone manages simply a lot of hotels across the globe, and we'll share some insight on what we are seeing across the globe, not only in hospitality industry, but also stepping outside hospitality industry and taking QSR and banking industry. What is really working for our clients, or what is working in the industry today? What we should and must do to prepare or to fight this crisis, and what we must and should do during recovery stage. So, Lauren, I think let's kind of go through everything, and then in another 5 minutes, I'll go through a structured checklist I have given. If a lot of hoteliers are listening, here's something you can do, and it will help right away.
Excellent. Do you want me to put the slide deck up on the screen share, or do you?
If there are other people,
let's start with, let's be different than every other live stream. And let's start with, I mean, because you all, I follow both of you on LinkedIn, so I'm aware of a lot of how you're thinking. Let's talk about the opportunity, because there is opportunity here. Now, I know times are tough, but there are things you can be doing to solidify your position in recovery. So what are your thoughts on the opportunity? What should hotels be focusing towards?
I mean, first of all, you have 5 areas of opportunities. One is operational, no doubt. The other one is communications to your customers in general, including your guests, including your distribution partners, including your corporate group planners and so forth, tour operators, bed banks, if you will, OTAs and the likes, corporate contracted corporate travelers, communications to them and what you should be communicating right now, not when the crisis is over. Then you have revenue management, of course, opportunities. You have marketing opportunities, and then sales opportunities. I mean, for example, how many hoteliers today have opened their hotels to day workers, people who simply cannot remotely work from home, and next door to them there's a hotel? How many hotels have opened their rooms and have packages for people to come and telecommute from a hotel room or hotel suite, where you will be away from running kids, barking dogs, smell of dishes being cooked in the kitchen, and you can work. I mean, do your thing for your company and be useful to yourself and to your company and society in general by going to the hotel next door.
And so
this is,
talking to that, Max, because I think that's interesting, but I think it may not be obvious to hotels. How would you go about, from a very high level structuring that, like, because it's for a lot of hotels, it may be a complete different opportunity than they've ever thought about. So what would you think, from a high end, targeting of audiences to let people know you're doing that, safety for your team, and then a high-end kind of revenue management thought process on that in like really short chunks, just to give a seed to the people watching that may be interested in that idea?
I mean, first of all, this is where a well-functioning, I would say, revenue optimization team on the property or corporate can really make a difference. Forget about the silos. Forget about, I'm director of sales and marketing. I'm revenue manager. I'm this, I'm that. We're talking about a cohesive team that thinks alike and then thinks for the best of the property. The general manager, revenue management, social media manager, of course, marketing manager, the sales manager, and so forth, all working hand in hand. For example, right now, there are 15,000 hotels. I mean, this is the American Hotel and Lodging Association reported this morning. There are 15,000 hotels who signed up to host, to provide accommodations to first responders. I mean, there are not only doctors involved in this crisis. You have a lot of medical personnel, even the people, the sanitation workers, the police. We're talking about first responders. We're talking about nurses, and yes, of course, doctors, people that the line cooks at the hospital canteen and so forth. All of these people, instead of commuting hours to stay close to the hospital, stay in a clean environment. So why not open your hotel for exactly these people that are mandated to work, that are not mandated to stay home? That's the first thing. And again, there's so many opportunities talking to the local government, talking to the hospital next door, talking to the local police department next door, and so forth. There's so many opportunities, and very few hotels, I would say, have taken advantage of these opportunities. The second thing that I mentioned was exactly the work from the hotel instead of working from home. How many people have such packages? I mean, I just bumped into one of those very, I would say, hotels that was very creative, and they did this. It's the Hamilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. They have daytime rates. First of all, can your CRS even support daytime rates? If it can, kudos for you, but how do you even accept reservations like this? So, and then from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., and it's $89 for you to rent a standard room, or $199 to rent a suite for day use. And the day use is not for some, I don't want to mention what kind of uses. We're talking about working at the hotel.
You don't want working ones either, Max. That's bad too.
Yeah. Okay. What I mean is that
your mind is always going somewhere else, man.
Look, Banu, you have to understand, with you being on the show and Max being on, the whole level of the show has raised quite a bit. So I'll just be quiet. We'll try not to bring it back down to its normal state.
So what I mean is that you can do, if your hotel is not shut down due to some local government mandates, because there's certain communities where this is happening, be creative. I mean, we have, by the way, I teach hospitality technology at NYU, and one of my students from 20 years ago, actually from 19 years ago, he's general manager of a hotel in New York City. He opened the hotel for Tisch Center of Hospitality, students who were kicked out from the dorms because NYU all of a sudden shut down their dorms, and 20,000 students were, had to go home within like 48 hours. So he opened the hotel to fellow, students, alumni type of rates, very reasonable rates for students that were kicked out from NYU. So is the hotel going to make a big profit out of this? No, but there are things that any hotelier can do today and again at this very moment. And the second thing that, apart from selling accommodations to, I would say, to people in need right now, or people that are in, I would say, mandated to work, there are opportunities. What about accommodating people, especially in a separate wing, especially if you're a budget or like a mid-scale and below hotel, for people who are recovering from the infection? I mean, mind you, that in a room, the virus exists up to 72 hours, 100 hours, a week on shiny, polished surfaces, and that's it, it dies. So what they mean is that after the crisis is over, this wing can be disinfected, this wing can be cleaned, or it will clean itself if you just leave it 1 week without anybody going there. So you will not damage your future operations by accepting people who are recovering from the virus and who has to be simply taken out of the hospital because there's a new influx of people coming to the hospital. So this is also Avio, our friends Avio from Ireland, what they did a crash development, and they enabled their clients to sell vouchers for, discounted vouchers for future stays, especially for hotels that have good brand recognition, that typically have high occupancy, selling now vouchers, and of course presenting this as, guys, by buying a voucher for staying in the future, anytime in the future, no expiration date, at 40% discount, 30% discount, is for example, with including a 20% discount, but including some spa treatment or whatever it is. You can do it as we speak.
And positioning it with the language of what that's actually doing.
Yes,
and then potentially keeping people employed.
Absolutely.
You're doing it not just for yourself and for the savings, but you're also helping people feed their families.
Absolutely, I agree with that, and believe me, already they see. Success. It will be different for every different property, but they're already seeing a number of success stories with these vouchers. So,
Banu, just real quick, Banu, what are your thoughts on these ideas?
No, actually, what Max is saying, there are a lot of our clients who are doing it. There are several clients. In fact, I now wanted Lauren to share some of the structured opportunities which I have created for community. So we have a couple of clients who have gift vouchers, and we are helping them sell gift vouchers. We have several clients who have converted, especially in Bay Area, because it's shelter in place. They have converted all their hotels into office residential. Now, how much they are selling, we still have to figure out, but at least they are not shutting it off.
Good.
Then we have clients who have, this is a really good one, and Lauren, if you don't mind just bringing it up. We have a client who has beautiful material, right? And what they are doing is they are doing regular webinars on different things which, they're, so Lauren, I think we can just fast forward on that. That was just always, but so what I wanted to share exactly what Max is saying. Things are going to come back, right? Yes, it is hard right now, but they will definitely come back. And what we have structured is what we should do right now and what we should be doing in May and April. So for example, and again, let's fast forward on that. There's a little bit more on what are other businesses doing. Let's come specifically to hospitality. So these are the 3 stages which Max talked about. And this,
Back one,
sorry,
Lauren.
can you go
Back-
back,
there we go.
Lauren?
There we go.
Yeah.
This one, yes.
Yes. So let's
Yeah.
stay here. That's exactly what everybody asks. What are the opportunity? And everything Max said is I've structured here. Crisis. You got to make sure that you're still live. Yes, hotel is closed, but you cannot just all of a sudden said, oh, my digital identity is gone, everything is gone. Second thing is that absolutely put, and this is what we have done for pretty much all our clients, brand, non-brand, what are your policies? What is your cancellation? What is your FAQ? What is your hygiene policy? What we have a client here who is constantly putting that how their staff has all of these things they are following for hygiene, right? So FAQs, creating one page must have, even if you're thinking that you have to reduce staff, still having one page digital presence which talks about your policies, your statement as a business around FAQ is a must-have. Ensure your local listing. So this is something we'll say if hotels have restaurants have takeout, updating your local listing across everywhere is a key. If you have limited staff, it's okay for you to update your local listing in all your local ecosystem, because think about every single local channel today has released specific schema for COVID and specific hours of operation and information for COVID. So you got to make sure all your local traffic, your local presence is updated. And you know what's going to happen is as in travel is going to become little hard, it's going to be back to 20 years back, right? When we were hoteliers, and before I started Milestone, I was in sales and marketing, and how we used to do all these affinity travel and group travel is going to become that way. So it's really critical for us to ensure that all your local foot traffic understand what is happening to your business, and your business is just not completely off, right? And think about the new content, which is really going to be your virtual. And I have given some examples of what even the hotel in New York is doing. We will talk about that. Your crisis stage is now till end of April. Then we have a recovery stage. And in recovery stage, which starts in May, sometime end of April to May and June, that's where we are talking about very, very defined paid media. Like we have a lot of hotels around Disneyland, and they are saying that they're going to open Disneyland sometime end of April. So they already started geared up on things they are doing to attract that audience, right? Your AMP flow or your mobile flow, because there is a really good stats which I got from our analytics team that in last 3 weeks, traffic coming from desktop has gone up, and which is the most interesting insight, female traffic has gone down and male has gone up, right? Yeah, maybe a lot of female are cooking. I'm not cooking, but yes. But again, that is, lot of desktop traffic has gone up. So that's a very good insight. If you look at your feeder market, what are top 5 feeder market, which is supplying you most amount of traffic, and ensure you optimize your mobile flow to add FAQ related to COVID. And I've given examples of that. So I would say these are the 3 things. And, as we continue, I have a lot of examples in next 3-4 slides. Lauren, if you don't mind, I'll just briefly walk through it and we'll come right back. So this is a really interesting idea. One of our clients is doing it. They have tons and tons of amazing content, at their resorts. And now resorts are closed or hardly anybody there. So they put in all this information online. They have, if you just go to the next one, they have cooking classes, Better Together, teen classes, and every day they're keeping their audience engaged, right? So right here, cook with us, be with us, avocado or guacamole classes. Now, they had all this information. Converting it online was a little bit hard, but at least they're engaging with their audience, right? Their audience are not thinking that these guys are just completely dead. And this is staying at home is fun. If you go next one.
Well, more important too about this, you're also showing your audience, you're human beings. You're not just a building.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Food, I've got beautiful.
But also, guys, if you shut down your property and you furlough your employees and you wait for better times, you will not be able to do that.
Yes.
You'll be able to engage your past guests, your future guests. You will not be able to communicate with them and so forth. So that's why this is part of the communication strategy, again, which is one of the top 5 strategies today. Communication strategy with even if you're shut down, even if you're closed, communicate to your customers. Again, customers in the broader sense of word, your past guests, your loyalty members, your reward program members, again, all of your travel agents, all of your tour operators, OTAs, bed banks, corporate clients, and so forth. Communicate. Yes, we are closed, but let me tell you what we are doing for our employees. We're taking care of them. We're taking care of their families. By the way, we keep our restaurant open, and we are supplying the local hospital with hot meals. We are doing all of these good things. So that's how you build brand, and that's how all of your customers stay connected with you. And then it will be much easier to transfer from a shut down property to a fully functioning property and so forth. So in this sense, doing nothing in this moment is, first of all, fiduciary irresponsible. There's no doubt about this. And second, it shows lack of professionalism, lack of creativity, and maybe you should not be in this business to begin with.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent again, completely, it is hard. It is really hard. I have a client of really good, dear friend of mine, and a client for last 22 years, and literally 7 of her hotels are closed. And I know how depressing it is. Everything what you have worked for is gone, but it is the hardest time. But we just have to think, how do we convert these hardest time into the opportunity? So a lot of examples here. Lauren, if you just interest of time, just go through real quick. I want to show a really good example of a hotel. Like this particular one, a lot of stores have said, your hours, update the hours. When is the takeout restaurant open or not open, or closed or not closed? When is and you can do all of this easily on your local listing, making sure that whatever you are open, there are a lot of hotels who have restaurants who have converting these restaurants into takeout, right? Let's have foot traffic. Let's have how you're following COVID-19 best practices and providing all that.
Actually, Benu, Google even sent out an email to all, text message to all of the local listing owners, if you will, which are all of the hotels, all the restaurants, reminding them, guys, in this time of crisis, please update your open business hour information. Please update whether you do takeout, whether you deliver drinks, and so forth. Because in some counties you cannot deliver drinks.
Yes.
In some you can. So is your bar closed for deliveries, or is it open and so forth? So Google themselves reminded the small businesses and the listing owners to do so.
Yep. And in fact, we are working very closely with Google Maps team to help them, because they are flooded with all kinds of requests. So we are helping. But if you go to the next one, It's not.
Did it move? It did.
No.
I
Yeah.
changed the screen.
Again, guys, very critical, your social media posting, right? If we are not posting anything on social media about what's happening, and we still have our ads running or whatever running about business as normal, business is not as normal. It is a new normal. So we got to make sure that every single piece of collateral we can create. In fact, within Milestone, we created this crisis recovery and growth. And we have every week, we have experts from around the globe, from leaders to local experts to SEMrush to everybody you can name for. They are coming and joining in this movement of what should we be doing. It's not about, hey, we have this beautiful offer, because that beautiful normal doesn't exist. So updating your social channels are must have. You should. Let's go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really interesting one for US Bank. When we had done this, overnight their impressions and everything grew. Here is another one where there are a lot of museums today, including Winchester Mystery House, which is right in my backyard. They are doing virtual videos, right? So you can do, and this is what we are doing for a lot of our clients, where you send out a little communication and tell them, hey, by the way, here are the virtual things happening. Or, like there is a cupcake we work with where they have delivery services, right? Or what are the things you can do when you're during staycation? So again, these are the things we can kind of think about, like updating your social media channels with some very specific information on what needs to be done, right? Lauren, let's go to the next one. This is probably the last one I have. Keep going.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. The one which is on the right-hand side. It's a hotel in New York, and what they are doing is they're sending out email to their customers, and they have included all the live show, not live, broadcast show, virtual broadcast show from the museum in DC, right? Do yoga with us. This is another one which we are doing for our client, where there is an email going out to their customer, hey, how hard it is, or sending it out, when you are ready, we are ready for you, right? So this is, yes, it is the hardest time. And I cannot tell you how, personally for me, this is an industry I grew up in, so I feel for it, and it's so disheartening to even see so many furloughs, jobs, and very, very disappointing and disheartening. But what can we do? We just need to engage. So hopefully in 3 weeks, when everything opens up, we are ready for floodgate. Our customers are not thinking that we don't exist, right?
But Benno, one thing that comes from all of this is, first of all, very few properties do this on their own. Many properties use outside digital marketing agencies, social media agencies, PR firms, and so forth to do this outreach and these communications. And you know what is happening across the industry? We have seen that hotels have shut down the digital marketing budgets. They have shut down their PR budget. They have simply put all of their vendors on hold, and they do nothing. And in the same time, they're not taking, I would say, advantage of such opportunities to keep their contracted agency of records, digital marketing agency, and so forth, keep them, first of all, engaged, and allowing them to help the property in this particular, I would say, difficult situation. Because who at the property will do all of this? I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
The properties don't do things like this. So that's why allowing your continuing to work with your outside vendors in general, and this is your CRS, your channel manager, your PMS, your CRM, of course, your website, your digital marketing vendors, your PR, social media, and so forth. Working with them, continue to work with them, finding some kind of a resolution for this like 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of misery, if you will. For example, not shutting down the budget, negotiate with those vendors that some mutually acceptable terms. Okay, guys, you're charging us, let's say, and any of the cloud-based services, you're charging us per room per month. We have 0 rooms open, or we have only 30% of rooms open. So charge us for 30% of our rooms. I mean, these are obvious things, and I'm sure that many hoteliers are doing this. But keep your partners engaged, and they will help you. And by the way, there's so many vendors. I mean, Fuel Travel Marketing is one of them. They have a whole list of useful information for how hoteliers should handle different aspects of their operations, of their marketing. Avio is doing a whole university, COVID-19 university. Next Guest, my former company, is doing a lot of educational webinars, seminars, and then providing online, how-to guides and so forth. Which is so keep your outside vendors engaged, and they will return this by providing a lot of useful free information. They will help you to manage this crisis, and you will be in a far better shape. But just shutting down budgets, severing relationships right now that's the worst thing, and again, it's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too, because I think it's easy for us as thought leaders in the industry, and I include myself in this, to kind of sit in our ivory towers and say, here are the best practices, and everything Banu said is spot on. Mm-hmm. And I think if you look around the industry, it's similar or the same to what Fuel's been saying, and Milestone's been saying, and Next Guest has been saying, and every other agency has been saying. But we're in a reality here where a lot of hotels are in an existential crisis. They're trying to survive, and the folks that are in charge of some of that no longer are working for these companies. So they have people that are not qualified to make decisions. So they panic, and they make probably not the decisions that are in their best interest. So they sever budget items because they don't understand them. So I think what you just said, Max, is great advice in terms of reaching out to your partners. And I really think that after this, there's going to be a shakeup. There's going to be a massive reckoning, because there's some partners, and I'd say all of the agencies represented on this screen in Flip2 as well, are doing things the right way. But there's a lot out there. I'm hearing horror stories where people they're getting stonewalled because they're not paying the agencies anymore. But I think the good ones genuinely want to help. And there's a lot of free resources, like Max said, that are available. But the real challenge, and I think this is something that can't be overstated, is this is a psychological side to this. That over 60% of people in this industry have never had to market through a downturn. So even if we look back at the financial crisis, it wasn't nearly as catastrophic as this. Even if we look back to 2001, it was not nearly as catastrophic as this. No, and this is going to be prolonged, right? So people aren't prepared and used to doing this. And we've been spoiled for 10 years straight of increased revenue, increased occupancy, where we could just throw out a net and we would catch guests.
You mean we could be spoiled?
We've been spoiled, right? We've gotten.
We always thought, especially in Silicon Valley, it's really funny that most of the hoteliers were, well, we are just sold out because of Google. We don't need to do much.
Right, yeah. You didn't really have to try. You just turned on the faucets, right? And business showed up. And so when people start hearing the tactical things that you're recommending here, like we've got to go after these really niche markets, like the work from home or the first responders, people aren't equipped. They don't know how to do that because they've never had to do that in their entire career. So now
Stuart, you're absolutely right. But Stuart, you're absolutely right. But what pains me the most is that many hotels are not even trying. We're not saying if you have a 250 room hotel, you cannot fill 250 room hotel with first responders, but open 20 rooms, Try it. Open 5 rooms, and then in a
But
week or
it's fear,
two,
right? Fear is what's holding them back.
increase to 40 rooms, to 50 rooms. My whole point is that many hoteliers have given up. They panic too easy. They have given up, and I wonder where ownership is in this case. Because if I were the owner of a hotel, I would hold my property management company, my brand. I will that manages my property. I will hold them responsible for abandoning me as the owner of this asset. I will hold them responsible because the main thing is that they panic too easy. They simply do not know what to do in this crisis, which is, listen, not knowing something doesn't make you innocent.
Well, and not just that, it's not even just not knowing it.
It's been through 5 crises.
But
five crises, the books written on those crises. You, as a general manager, as a director of sales and marketing, you should have read those books and you should be prepared. Zika was not such a long time ago.
Nope. And it's not even just not knowing, it's also not being willing to open your eyes and try and figure out what's going on. And I've been telling my team as they're getting the different array of messages from our hotel partners, for them to identify what stage of grief that person is going through. And understand that depending on how bad the hammer hit, how recently, they're in different stages. And the first one is always just shut everything off. Don't even look at what it is. Just shut everything off, which, I understand you're in triage mode. You need to make sure you're doing things right. Someone needs to have a cool head and go, wait a sec. What is really happening? What are we going to do as an operation to survive and recover from this? And I don't think that's happening enough. And listen, it's fine to feel a little pressure when everyone around you raises their hand and says, I don't know how to do any of these things. Because the question should be is, I don't think anyone knew how to deal with a global pandemic. I don't think anyone knew how to deal with a global crisis that affected everyone at the same exact time. Yeah. However, there were many people stopping and going, what is happening now? What are the trends? What's going on? What can we work to our advantage to try and survive, not just for the good of the investor who owns it, but for the people whose livelihood this business depends on?
And Ed, you're absolutely right, but with a little caveat. Even if at the property, let's say the general manager, the director of sales and marketing, the revenue manager, even if they haven't been through any of these 5 crises that we have experienced the last 20 years, from 9/11 to the global recession, we have the SARS. Don't forget SARS.
Yep.
Before that, don't forget the H1N1
shootings, hurricanes.
So what I mean is that if they haven't been through this, work with your outside partners, because your outside partners have been in the business for a long time and they can help you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we at the Next Guest, we have advised companies from 9/11, starting through all of those crises. We have a playbook for all of different scenarios, and we can help. And we do help our clients.
And that's an important point. I mean, you even look around this room, I believe all of us have been 9/11 forward. Robert was around when the meteor took out the dinosaurs, and
that was bad. That is not nearly as bad as that.
And are you saying that Robert has been around for ages?
Ages.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. But to Mac's point, I just wanted to kind of reason this is happening, because again, neither owners nor general manager, none of us have even experienced something like this, right? So a lot of times it is just nobody knows how to deal with it. So people are just figuring it out. How are they going to survive? How are they going to pay the mortgage? How are they going to keep the lights on? Right. And as a vendor, biggest thing we can do, what we are doing, is just kind of saying, okay, we are here for you. Here are things we can do. Let's think about what are the must-have for you, because right now, when yes, of course, once you shut off the thing, you can't just turn it on again.
Right.
But if you put yourself in GMs and owners' shoes, their challenge is that they have never experienced something like this, right? So I think this is where there's a double-edged sword. Like in Milestone, our team has done a phenomenal job of just supporting client personally in terms of they're just going crazy. Even our biggest brands, there's just nobody there. You're trying to talk to biggest brand and 80% or 90% of folks are furloughed, right? And you're just providing, okay, we are here for you. Here are the things we can do for you. But yes, we'll be here for you another 2 weeks from now. And it seems like when you have a little bit more sympathetic for overall, people tend to react because the first reaction, everybody's saying just shut off everything.
Yep.
And then they say, okay, once this is over in 2 weeks, what I'm going to do.
Right.
Right.
But also there is something else. This panic that we're witnessing at many of the properties. Let's say that you are forced to shut down. Let's say that you furlough all or part of your employees. How do you make sure that you keep those employees that are already trained, that know your product? These are people that care about the property. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there, and otherwise you would not have kept them before the crisis. So obviously, these are people that must have people that you need to somehow engage. Think about how many hotels are doing the following: training their furloughed employees. Yes, you are furloughed. We unfortunately cannot pay you. We keep your health insurance so that you're insured. But every day between 5 and 6 p.m., 1 hour, we have an online training, acquaintance with the hotel product. I will invite outside vendors, the vendors of the property, the outside partners, to come and present on CRM, on customer engagement, on digital marketing, on revenue management, and so forth. I will do brainstorming sessions. How do we get out of this crisis? And then between 5 and 6 p.m., for this 1 hour, I will pay you. So whoever is online with this 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, I will pay you by the hour X number of dollars. How many hotels are doing this? I would say none.
None.
Well, even a digital happy hour, virtual happy hour, you can do that and say it doesn't have to be official with presentation. Just get is everybody okay? What's going on? And hey, what are brainstorms? Because those staff are an incredibly valuable asset. They have very creative ideas on. Well, did you ever think of this? I mean, you'll have someone sitting there whose child is in preschool and they're homeschooling them or something. You go, my gosh, we have this kids club. And maybe we're a resort and we're known for this. Can we put anything out? Can we do crafts online via Zoom? Absolutely. Can we get a Seesaw account and have little activities for probably the first one laid off was the kid club counselors, right? Yep. I mean, that might be the cornerstone of the property. You just have to think about the guest. What does that guest need now? How can you help them? You have to think about your employees. What do they need now? How do you help them? And the last one, it should really be kind of the equity at the back end of it, right? The ownership, it's like they're the ones who should be helping. Unfortunately, a lot of that is backwards now. Right?
I mean, there's so much you can do, but I mean, if you have furloughed everyone, if you've cut everyone, that gets harder and harder to continue with. I mean, we have hotels that have their chefs doing home videos. They have their bartenders doing home videos on how to make their signature cocktail. We have a hotel I was talking to this morning that hosts local artists in the lobby every week for the year. So they've reached out to all of those artists asking if they would do videos for how to do art projects at home. There are so many things you can be doing because, oh, by the way, and anyone here can attest to this, engagement's at an all-time high. Like people are super engaged right now. Social media is off the charts. because people are looking for an escape. They're looking for ideas. They're looking for entertainment, and you can only watch Netflix completely through
They're
one.
also looking for connection. They're looking for a
Right.
human connection. right now,
Absolutely.
because that's the thing that's missing, and that's
Yeah.
a huge opportunity. Is make yourself feel a part of their situation, that you're in this struggle together. If you can
Right.
connect on a human level like that, you better believe they're going to come stay with you.
Well,
when they're
that's
through
real
this.
loyalty.
Yeah, but that's,
Because they
that's
actually
how
care
you
about
build.
you.
That's how you build brand engagement. That's how you build loyalty. And because you have been there for them during the crisis,
Mhm.
Yep.
then they will be
Absolutely.
there for you after the crisis. It's very simple.
Yep.
It's
So-
very simple.
So just to kind of pivot, if we hopefully everything gets good, maybe I'm too optimistic, but end of April, and how do you prepare for
Too
recovery?
optimistic, but that's okay.
You're too
Well,
optimistic, but that's
let
fine.
me point out the most important thing. All of you have experience with helping get new hotels launched, right?
Yes.
So do they turn everything on the day it's available, or do they
Yes.
generally lead up to it and build
And-
demand?
At
Well,
least
they're
6
normally
months.
dropped out of planes, aren't they? You just come over and you drop the hotel and
And
the
people
doors
just
open
Turn
and
on
you're
the
done.
in.
open sign, vacancy
But
sign.
by the way, guys, first of all, I don't believe that hospitality will be up and running on any particular date, simply because
No, I think it's
different
going to be
regions.
different regions, different times.
Yeah, different regions have been affected in a different manner. Different regions, different countries, different. I would say tourist spots.
Yep.
They rely on different feeder markets. I mean, if you're a resort in the Maldives, you have to wait for the long haul travel to rebound.
Yep.
If
But
you're
even
a
that,
resort,
let's go back on Banu's answer here. If
Yeah,
you're opening a
one question.
hotel, it's 6 months in
Yes.
advance to market the opening of a hotel. So no matter where you are way inside of what you would normally do if the hotel was opening brand new. So I mean, the answer isn't shut down sales and marketing. I was on a chat with HSMAI Arizona this week where one of the hotels is like, yeah, my wedding salesperson sold 7 weddings for this year this week. So
you see?
you're not doing
Right.
that if your entire team is furloughed.
Yeah.
Like people, yes, I know we have a tight booking window these days, but people aren't booking for right now. So they are looking for later because they can't book anywhere right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're selling those weddings, I'm sure they have it set up saying, okay, we're looking at August 15th or whatever date they have. And then the consideration and what you need to talk about is, okay, and if that doesn't work, let's now, shift to another, because
second
you
date.
you
Yeah.
probably have a completely open calendar.
Right.
So you can really start kind of staging things out and say, we hope it doesn't have to be next, a year from now, but that's okay. We have your back. Let's make sure this is going to happen, and we can sequence this. And then all of a sudden you start rolling with all of those folks, and it starts making sense.
So
Yeah, but
Robert,
you know,
that's what I had said is if you can update, right? If you have a page on every single digital identity and your social channel, and you can talk about, and that's what a lot of clients, a lot of customers we are seeing are doing it, is, hey, you can book today. We have flexible cancellation. We will give you blah, 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 blah. And they're really, and if things don't improve, like I said, I'm ultimately optimistic, but if things don't improve, there's still ways to get out. But at least far end, you got the customer, you have ability to secure, and you know how your window looks like. Right?
But the
So
other
update
the other dynamic that's changed recently that everyone needs to keep in mind is you now know that the government is stepping in with real impact. So, if you look at this $2 trillion stimulus package that's being rolled out right now, they're rolling that out based on the amount of time of impact that they think this issue is going to last. If this goes beyond that, they are likely to roll out another. So you have a bit higher of a floor than you did before anyone knew the government was truly going to step in and basically create money that didn't exist and then just freely give to every business and people to shore up that the government has shown they do not want the major sectors of the economy coming out of this as zombies. They want a healthy economy coming out of this. So you can take a little bit of a risk as a business owner. Now I'm talking to hotel owners, I'm talking to everyone here. You can take a little bit of risk knowing that, okay, if the worst case scenario is worse than this current plan, it's highly likely the government's going to step in again, is going to shore up, because what happens if everyone becomes desperate? The government gets overthrown. The government doesn't want that. So they're going to step in.
Yeah, but Ed, actually, you're underlying a point that we're trying to make here is that with this stimulus package, with all of this advance toward payroll and so forth that you can get now, starting today, today's Friday, what they mean is that then shutting down a property, furloughing everybody, simply is not a justified measure in our industry. You cannot justify doing that because, again,
for at least the next 8 weeks, you can't justify it.
Exactly.
Because
No.
you've got 8 weeks of payroll getting
Exactly.
covered for you.
I'm talking about right now, or at least you may furlough some people, but keep like the core team in place so that you can do communication with customers, communication if you're closed. What do you communicate? Communication with the customers if you're open. For example, bragging to your customers that, hey, we are accommodating as we speak first responders, medical personnel from the hospital next door. We're delivering food to the hospital. We have created a school delivery, food delivery for the school next door that was shut down, and now parents can come. Parents in need can come and pick up food for their kids. What they mean is that you can build brand equity as we speak with very little efforts and very little money, actually. It's just a matter of creativity. On the other hand, who will plan for your post-recovery period? Who will develop the short-term strategy? Who will analyze, Benno mentioned, analyzing your feeder markets. I mean, the short haul and drive-in feeder markets will save the day.
It
Absolutely.
will actually.
Especially in North America. In North America, the drive-in travel with this low, the fuel is as low as, the gas is as low as we have seen since the early 1990s right now. You have people that are stir crazy, like caged animals at home, and we will unleash the public traveling at least to close destinations. Second, people are keeping themselves informed about the immediate neighborhood, about immediate destination, and about the neighboring destinations. You don't know much what's happening in the Maldives, but you know a lot what's happening in the county, in the town where you live, in the neighboring town, and so forth. So what they mean is that if the coronavirus case under control, or at least it's perceived that it's under control, then people will be more willing to travel to the neighborhoods that they are familiar with. That's the driving travel. So driving travel, short haul, will save the day in this country, and this will be like the jump start for the whole travel industry in general. So you analyze your feeder markets, you put your mid and long haul feeder markets on hold for the time being, though you communicate to your partners over there, and again, even negotiate for next year. But you focus on your short haul markets. You don't shut down, for example, your paid search campaigns, your Google ads, because using your brand names, your hotel brand names, you can inform people in the neighborhood, and geo-targeting your feeder markets. You can inform people in the neighborhood as to what is the status of the property. Yes, we are open. Yes, we are accommodating first responders. Yes, we are feeding the poor, or we are feeding the hospital, and so forth. We are doing all these great things. And by the way, when the crisis is over, please do welcome, or you can even promote your advance vouchers, discount vouchers for future stays using, paid search marketing as we speak. All the communication. Who will do that? If you follow,
I'd change the wording of that a little bit, because not who will do that, who is doing that, because you should be doing that right now.
But so guys, just I think yes, it also it needs to be done, but like I said, cash flow is the biggest concern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing right now, when we are as a vendor, we could go to our partners and we can say, hey, in terms of, and again, we have our payroll too. And this is where we as a group, as a community needs to pull it together, right? We go to our partners, we go to hotels or who we've been working with and negotiate and say, hey, you can pay some of the portion a little bit later, right? Because the biggest challenge today hoteliers have is they don't have the cash flow. But yeah, completely agree. So we did that with one of our clients in Dallas. We studied their audience. And what we figured is we took all their feeder market. We took 3 feeder market. We completely pivoted paid and organic strategy to focus on feeder market. We created staycation package. It's really funny. That particular hotel and a hotel in DC who pivoted their strategy to be remarketing and 3 feeder market, drive-by location, staycation package with added experience are doing 20% more occupancy than any other.
Absolutely.
And we also
But the
told them, and the good thing was that, again, I don't know if good thing or whatever, but good thing was that we had done that analysis. So it was very easy for us to pivot just in a timely manner. And now at least this is a resort kind of a location. So 6 feet is not a problem because it's such a big resort. Everything is miles away. Nobody cares. And it was a great way for a resort to attract locals. To Mac's point, that is what's gonna be. You have to do. Yeah. I remember the days when Kimpton and Joadaviv used to do a lot of these amazing packaging. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Chip, it's gonna be back again. It's gonna be all about experience. Yep. Because people are not going to Maldives. They are gonna go to Sacramento, right? And it's gonna be about Great America Parkway again, tell me. Yep. It's gonna be, right?
Which is why everyone should be investing stuff now, right? They need to have the employees and the partners available at this point. So the challenge is a lot of people did what was easy as the bombs were dropping, as the panic set in, everyone looked at their note and said, I've got to pay the bank. If I don't pay that, nothing else matters. So rather than going and negotiating with their bank and realizing that a lot of banks are being really flexible in terms of, delayed payments or renegotiating rates or going to interest only, a lot of people just said, I've got to pay that nut. I'm going to make cuts. So now is the time. Take a breath, take a step back, go to your bank if you haven't already, have a conversation. You can submit for the CARE Act loans today. So if you're not already prepared for that, you're going to be at the back of the queue because a lot of people are already doing. So
to be clear,
hang up
you're likely not going to be able to apply for it today, but soon you'll be able to apply for it. The SBA is pointing at the government saying there's a few pesky details that aren't clear and the banks don't want to be on the hook.
Well, so we'd already done the paperwork, right? 2 or 3 days ago. And then this morning we got new paperwork because they're ironing out pesky details. But the point is we're prepared. And every hotel that's struggling right now has to be prepared. If you haven't spent a lot of time talking to your bank lender, you need to be doing that. That's the biggest priority because that's how you fund marketing and sales, and that's what you need to be doing right this second.
Hey, Tammy, you were trying to say something.
The government reported this morning that over 1 million applications have been submitted already. So obviously, listen, anything that touches the government is by default prone with glitches and false starts. I mean, that's how governments all over the world
but they're consistent.
Work.
They're very consistent.
So
everywhere but Bulgaria has it figured out. Right?
I worked for the government of Bulgaria. I came to North America as the director of the government tourist office for North America. So believe me, I know how governments work, and whether it's a communist government, whether it's a capitalistic government, they're exactly the same because these are government bureaucrats that simply don't care. So anyway, my whole point is that glitches or no glitches, this program is working and will be working better in the coming weeks. But what we have discussed so far is kind of what can hoteliers do now. Let's pivot a little bit toward
What they should do in
what they
future.
should be doing for the post crisis period, because again,
Yes.
there's a the way that I see it is you have, first of all, revenue management priorities, you have digital marketing priorities, you have sales marketing priorities. For example, how many hoteliers today, and especially we're talking about, let's say, independents, you know what their over dependence on the, that's why they should be called not independents but dependents hotels, because they're dependent on the OTAs. How many of the hoteliers in North America, in Europe, have gone back to their let's say distribution partners, whether bed banks, whether OTAs, whether tour operators, and offer them, okay, we don't have the contact information of the people who cancel, but if you, Mr. OTA, go back to all the people that had booked my property and they have canceled, I will pay you. And if you go back to them and offer them, let's say, vouchers for the future, or to rebook their stay at my hotel for future dates, I will offer you an extra 10% commission, an extra 20% commission.
Mm.
How many hotels have done that?
Mm.
I bet none. Why?
Mm-mm.
The same is with corporate travel planners.
But
with the-
Max, how will hotels do it when sales and marketing folks are not even there?
Okay, I understand, but again, we're talking about preparing for the future,
Yes. No, completely agree. And one thing,
and we're talking about what smart hoteliers, I'm sure some of them are doing, or they should be doing. So we already discussed hoteliers who were too eager to take the easy way out, which is shut down everything, forget everything, and bury your head in the sand. That's obvious. We have many of those in our industry, unfortunately. My whole point is that let's pivot toward what hoteliers should be doing in the future, and this involves, first of all, marketing. It involves revenue management. It involves sales strategy. So, what exactly hoteliers should be doing to prepare for the future?
so let me propose something to everyone. What about if we create something called crisis recovery and growth, and we can put either a checklist or our ideas. These are some amazing ideas. And then circulate, forget for a change that we are competition or whatever. Just do something good. Let's put what we see is working, put it, and then circulate it around. I think that would be
Lauren, why don't you create like a Google Docs or something that is accessible online, and everybody can chip in, because I'm sure that
yeah.
here,
And
many
then
people-
what we
Along those lines, Lauren, that digital marketing playbook that I sent you yesterday might be a good start for that.
Yeah, I'll throw it in there
Book-
too. Absolutely.
book-
Absolutely. By the way,
yeah.
this is Dean, everyone. I don't know if everyone knows Dean. Dean's Derbysoft. Dean's brilliant. But anyway,
Sometimes.
yeah, he asked him if I have jump in as well. So, but no, I'll do it. I will make a share document and I'll send it out to everybody as well. And I'll put it on the show notes as well.
So
I
what
think one of the keys to that is as we were saying, not to shut off marketing for a lot of obvious reasons, but some that might not be as obvious is the fact that when you shut down your marketing, that also completely stops your sales funnel, right? And so as Ed was talking about, hey, if you were opening a hotel, you'd be marketing 6 months in advance, right? Well, even as you've got your hotel opening, even if you're doing it on a very minimal level, having that data out there is still so important, because trying to start that cold 3 months down the road is very difficult, because you've got no data. Various programs out there use algorithms and what have you to manage campaigns and programs. Well, algorithms need data. If you don't keep on feeding that beast, they've got nothing to work with. and that's going to make it very difficult for you to start back up again when the time comes.
Oh yeah, I mean, Google AdWords is one very simple example. I mean, if you
Exactly.
stop all of your campaigns, then your
Your
quality index
number-
goes down the drain.
Yeah.
Google has to reestablish this quality index, which takes weeks and months.
Yeah,
and
you're dead in the
it's
water.
weeks and months of wasted advertising dollars, which you don't have to begin with. So in this sense,
So this is
Stopping-
this is a classic thing we see across a lot of our clients. They're like, shut off all paid campaign,
Yeah.
keep local, keep organic, but shut off all the ad campaigns. I'm sorry, okay, fine. But then when you realize that this is a time where if you have good market, if you create your strategy to be very targeted, feeder market based, you really put a good tap on your hose, those ads will do much better. And again, selling it with flexible cancellation policy. But just going back to what
Well,
I
and they're
was
cheap.
saying,
They're incredibly
they're
cheap too.
one thing I was suggesting that we should absolutely create something where we can all contribute. But what would be great is if we can open it up for community, right? We can have
Yeah.
one blog or something where we invite people like Chip, and I'll invite him to talk through it. And it's hey, what should we be doing during crisis recovery and growth? And we really get people to contribute what is working for them. Right.
And it should have this, I would say, 6 categories, from operations to communications to revenue management, marketing, sales, which is separate from marketing and has nothing to do with marketing, though in our industry we have branded all of the directors of sales and marketing, and they have no idea what marketing stands for. And then technology.
Yeah.
And then technology. So these 6 categories where in each of those categories there are a lot of things that could be done now, and that should be done now, preparing for the post coronavirus crisis.
Because all of us have something we are doing within our organization. What I'm saying is maybe we should combine all the mastermind, and we should have one which is available for entire industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we could talk to Cornell, we can talk to a couple of strong industry leaders and see if they are willing to contribute there too.
Mm-hmm.
Tammy had something to say and was muted. Tammy, because
Yes.
Tammy hasn't. Tammy's you gotta like just blurt in. That's how this show works. Otherwise, you will.
Sharpen his elbows. Yeah. Sharpen his elbows.
Sharp elbows.
Tammy, you are muted.
Oh, you're muted.
We got you, Tammy.
You there? No.
See, the muting also dulls the elbows quite a bit. It's hard to get in edgewise.
Okay, Stuart, did you remotely mute her? Stuart, stop that.
Not
It's like,
at
yeah,
all.
don't-
I'm a fan
yeah.
of Tim.
Well-
He was on our podcast this week. He has a lot of good things to say.
Yeah, Tammy's brilliant. Yeah. No, everything on this side looks good.
You know, guys, I've known Tammy before I even started Milestone. And it's really funny. I seriously, like literally, 20 plus years. And how I met her is she was in Paramount's Great America. And I was just talking to her other day, and I'm like, you know what? It seems like what we did 20 years back is going to come back. Right? We are going to start doing feeder market. We are going to start going to and saying, oh, these are the feeder market where traffic is coming for. And now let's do some attractive packaging, because nobody's going to be hopping on the plane and going to whatever, outside US or wherever, right?
All the Smurf business that everybody hated for the last
It's gonna
20
come back.
years didn't want anything to do with it, just wouldn't return their calls. It's going to be, hi, can welcoming at their door with flowers.
Robert,
please.
Robert, you will see Smurf groups in the lobby of the Four Seasons Hotel here on 57th Street in New York.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I've told this story before on the show, but it was probably 100 episodes ago or so. When the Houston oil market crashed, I think it was like 1980, mid 80s, with Four Seasons, the Four Seasons Inn on the Park, which is, outside, it's kind of out near the gallery, a very nice park site. It's now an Omni. but they had the Exxon board of directors meeting, right? And it was the previous year, and it was no holds barred. $500 a night, gold service, white gloves, and just over the moon. Exxon loves it. Next year, Exxon had laid off employees for the first time in their history, right? And so the salespeople are going back to them, going, "Okay, this is great." Exxon started saying, "We cannot go to your hotel at any cost because it sends the wrong message." They booked, I think it was at the Remington for $59 a night. Right, because they were just trash. It was a Rosewood property. They had no clue on what they were doing revenue management wise back then. Just anything, get a nickel over the, to cover, contribute to your fixed costs, whatever the strategy was, and that's what they wound up doing. I mean, it was just insane. Not good for the marketing. Not good for that hotel that then wound up changing hands 3 or 4 times because they couldn't maintain it.
Robert, I would
But
love
yeah,
to know.
you
Since
get crazy things that come out of these because you've got to be smart and you dig yourself this huge hole.
Since
So-
both the clients you mentioned are our clients, I'd love to know a little bit more. I will call you and understand it.
Yes,
Okay.
Smurfs.
Actually, one story they hate,
will be
that
more
property-
than welcome.
$32 a night. And again, this is $1985 or 86 or whatever, for airline crew rooms. And it's a long way from the airport, but and we had to convince the general manager to do it because it's like, you are displacing no business. There's no one there. And the only way we convinced him, we said, you are going to have attractive Air France flight attendants and pilots smoking cigarettes in your bar. Oh, okay. that was it. You need humans in your hotel so other people will be around. But yeah, it's
Hey,
crazy.
Tammy, is your audio working?
Yeah. Are you back, Tammy? No.
She's not. Maybe reboot.
It's not on this side either. I'm looking at it. It shows that she's not muted.
Have you tried restarting your computer?
Yeah. Well.
Thank you, tech support.
But Max, thank you. It's a brilliant idea. I'll do a share doc for it now. Obviously, I mean, I'll even put it on a domain and a website. People want to really amp this up and put stuff on there. It's no problem.
But it has to be an incredibly long URL, Lauren.
Of course,
Yes, it has to be at least 73 characters for Lauren to have a URL. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it needs to be almost COVID-19 still keeping your lights on.
.com.
Yeah,
and then again, the topic is what hoteliers should be doing now and what they should be doing now.
So let's
Again,
go.
now to prepare for the future. That's
So
that's
if everybody agrees, can we call it as CRG, Crisis Recovery and Growth, right? Marketeer roadmap for crisis recovery growth.
Let's keep it even simpler. It's just R, a rebound. Anyway,
Can we
by
just
the
get
way,
the
guys,
symbol that from the
because
artist previously known as Prince?
I saw Del Ross, our good friend, business friend Del Ross, chime in about housekeepers being afraid today to service guests because they're afraid of catching being infected and so forth. And I believe that this is a very legitimate claim. So I think that it's part of the education, part of the preparedness of the property. So even if you're open, you still service people that go out and go in. For example, I know somebody who is a doctor that works for 16, 18 hours nowadays at the hospital, a friend of mine. When he comes home, he has commandeered the garage of the house. So the garage is like a cleansing room, like a disinfecting room. He takes off all of his clothing. He goes to a shower which is attached with the door to the garage. All of his clothes go in the washing machine and so forth. And then he steps into his home. So similar arrangements obviously must be done at a hotel, if you will, to have some kind of a decontamination procedure in place. But I mean, it's That's why we have general managers. That's why we have smart people managing these multi-million-dollar enterprises, to think about things like this. So I agree that it's a concern, but it's a concern that could be overcome. And another thing about the labor force, do you remember in February, we had in our industry, in hospitality, the broader hospitality in North America, which includes restaurants and F&B and so forth, and all the hotels, we had 1 million unclaimed positions in our industry. There were 1 million open positions without any takers. So yes, I know that we have a lot of people that are furloughed or laid off as we speak, but once we rebound, there will be a dire need. There will be labor shortage for qualified people in our industry, and I believe that we will rebound much faster simply because we started the crisis with a major gap in our labor force. That's my take on this. So,
well, and I think it's going to be exacerbated because a lot of people are going to fall out of this industry. Some of those folks that are laid off or furloughed are not going to come back.
Yeah,
they're going to
will
go
go
into other
to-
industries that are
they're
more
like-
robust right now.
Completely agree, Strauss. They'll be like, I'm done with this industry, right?
They will go to Amazon. Amazon is hiring 125,000 people. They'll go to, there are a lot of positions opened at Walmart, 150,000 and so forth. So there will be a lot of open positions in other industries that will, again, I agree. So this labor shortage in hospitality will only increase after the crisis. So that's why it's extremely important to keep your team intact as we speak, not just lay them off and forget about them or furlough them and forget about them, but keeping them engaged, keeping them somehow attached to the property, showing them that you care about their loved ones, about their kids, and so forth, and all of the things that we discussed, from training and product reacquaintance and all of the professional development, or even happy hours and for your employees, and entertaining their kids or teaching them how to cook and so forth, the chef of the restaurant. What I mean is that keeping them engaged in the broader sense of the word will allow you to rebound much faster and in much better shape than hoteliers that simply ignore their employees. Because post-crisis, there'll be labor shortage in our industry again.
No, very true. I just want to let you know about the domain crisisrecoverygrowth.com.
Okay, perfect. Let's bring that. And
I'll get it hosted up and we can start loading stuff on it. Anybody that wants to contribute to, we can put it there if we like.
Okay.
yes, perfect. Hey, Tammy, are you live? Miss,
There, yeah.
did you manage to log?
Fine. Can you hear me?
Hey!
We can hear you. Yay.
I was gonna blame Lauren. Didn't Holly had that issue about 6 months ago, right? So
Yeah,
I would
she
say
did.
Lauren's
She
got
did.
some secret,
Do we get to see Holly? I know she's there.
Yeah, but she hasn't popped in.
Yeah.
No, she's.
Uh,
I think
I
she's
see
still
her.
there.
Holly, we don't
Holly-
have to see your makeup. Just come on on. You are always
Ollie's
pretty.
been on over a half dozen of our 240 shows at least. So,
Really? She managed to speak between all of you guys.
Oh, yeah.
oh, she holds
sharp
her own.
as the time went on. Yeah, she got better at it.
See, my
She's really good at
problem
rolling her eyes when we talk. That's what she was good at.
So
And telling us that we were wrong. She's good at
Oh,
that.
yeah. Well, yeah. No, she's really, that was pretty good.
That's
at that.
pretty easy though, Stuart. Yeah,
Yeah, that's,
It is.
that's a very low bar.
Well, I kicked her
Look,
camera off.
it's the new standard right now. Everybody working from home, like Banu was saying earlier, that everybody buys tops and not bottoms. And rest assured, I am wearing pants for every minute.
well, Dean, we don't really know.
Yeah.
As long as none of us get
I
up with
wish
it.
I could commit to
No.
that statement.
But I didn't shave this morning, so I've got the grown at home look here going on.
So let's just pivot from, if it's okay, and we have very little time remaining. What are we doing? Let's not talk about what hotels should do. What are we doing within our companies, right? because again, within Milestone, we are almost 300 people, and it is one of the hardest thing in our life. In my life, I've gone through. Not building a company was not hard. Going through this downturn has been the hardest thing. So what are you guys doing? Let's be on a serious note to keep your employees engaged, to keep them inspired, keep them motivated, but at the same time have some sanity, because you really don't know how many of your customers are going to be in business tomorrow.
Stuart, Ed, you guys have.
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, we started early. I think I don't know if we were lucky or we had some foresight, but we started planning very early in March. Like the first week in March, we started saying, before people started taking this seriously, we're like, this could be a problem. So what if, right? We ran the hypothetical, and we always believe in having scenarios planned out and having strategies for every eventuality, so we're not surprised. So we started looking at our budget, started running, okay, what happens if our revenue drops by 20% or 30% or 50%? And we went all the way up to 90% and said, okay, what does that look like? And we knew two things going into this. One, we said we want to do everything we can to protect our employees, because our team is what makes us. Like, we call it each other Fueligans. We see ourselves as a family. So regardless of what the fallout was, we wanted to protect the team. But we also knew that we wanted to protect our clients too, and that they were going to struggle, and that we would be healthier as a business on the flip side if they were successful through this. So how can we support them? And then we also felt obliged, because we said we got this podcast that reaches thousands of people every week. We felt like we had a responsibility to the greater audience too, to the industry. So we started looking through, and right at the beginning of March, we started cutting non-essential budget items, and we slashed a lot of our overhead. And then we started immediately seeking funding beyond our normal revenue streams. And so we started talking to our banks about credit lines. We started looking at what the government was already talking about. And so we ran permutations, and we said, okay, if we're in this scenario by this date, then we can stomach this much debt. So we made the decision, rather than letting people go when our clients need us most, when our team members need us most, we're going to take on debt in the short term, because it will benefit everyone in the long term, including the business, but more importantly, the team, the clients, and the industry. So and I felt a little bit like a survivor's guilt on this, but we have not let anyone go. We have not furloughed anyone. And we've been very honest and transparent with the team and said from day one, we don't know what tomorrow brings. Here's where we stand today. Here's our financial position. We've shown them the specifics and said, we're going to do everything we can to protect you. If the day comes where we have to let you go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay for your medical. We're going to make sure we submit your unemployment. We're going to train and educate you. We're going to help you find other placements. So really taking care of people ahead of them needing us to. And also in the interim, knowing that their lives have been thrown upside down because they've got kids at home, they've got spouses who have been laid off. So reaching out individually and saying, how can we help you guys? So doing a lot of that. And then with the client side, we went to every client early on and said, this is going to be painful, but we're here for you. What do you need us to do from a financial perspective and a resources perspective? So we have a lot of clients who are not paying us. And we said, that's great. You don't have to pay us, but we're going to continue to work for you. Just so you know, we got employees, so we're going to continue to do work. And if you need us to do other stuff because you have laid people off and they had responsibilities, we're going to do that too. So we're really trying to support them with data, with our expertise. And then the third tier is the industry at large. So we said, what are people going to struggle with in the industry? How can we produce content that's going to help them? So we've done, I want to say in the last week and a half, we've done maybe 9 podcasts, 10 blog posts. We created a resource center that aggregates everyone's great content. So we've got stuff from Milestone, we've got stuff from NextGuest, we've got stuff from everywhere. And then we started using our podcast as a platform to reach out to partners. You know, we had Tammy on the show on Wednesday, and that episode was awesome. It's already got a ton of downloads. So we're really trying to look at everything from a strategic perspective. One, how do we short-term survive this? But then how do we, on the flip side, coming out of this, how do we all thrive? So trying to be creative, trying to look at the new normal and saying, okay, what needs to change? So employee morale is tough to maintain because everyone's stressed. So what can we do in the short term? So we've been doing virtual happy hours and little games. We have a scavenger hunt this afternoon at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, where we're going to do a virtual happy hour, and then we're going to do a scavenger hunt where people have to go find stuff in their house. So just doing a lot of engagement, a lot of communication, a lot of forward planning, a lot of scenario building, those kind of things. But it's about taking the time to plan. I think that's what's prevented us from making what would have been easy decisions to, like a lot of hotels have done. You know, it would have been easy for us to say, let's cut off this amount of salary because it makes us healthier in the short term. But we really stopped and thought, what was the long-term ramification of that, and really focused on the long term. So that's a long answer, but we're doing a lot, I'd say.
Yeah. And so I had the benefit of, I owned a software company through the financial crisis. And so I got to experience what happens in this industry. If you're an essential software, you actually grow quite a bit when stuff like this happens. I was fortunate that, my last company was a channel management platform. So when you're furloughing employees, you being able to have multi-extranets managed through one touch was a big deal. So we grew quite a bit. So I looked at the coming of this a little bit differently. I did the same thing as Stuart, did an analysis on how much debt could we take on to not have to cut anyone. So we haven't cut or furloughed anyone. We had a plan in place to take on debt as needed, because we also wanted to take a position of any of our partners who are suffering financially, to allow them to continue to use the platform at no cost during the time that they're hurting the most, especially because of what our platform does. I mean, we're a long tail engagement platform. So when you're talking about hotels, it's kind of the only thing a lot of them have that can not immediately try and drive someone to a booking. And then we actually split our team in two. We split half the team to focus on outputting some new solutions that we're going to give to our clients to, as we start to enter that recovery phase, to help them recover stronger, help them be more profitable. So half the team is focusing on that. The other half of the team, we're focusing, at which I'm on that half of the team, is we're actually speaking to every single one of our clients, helping realign their strategies, helping assess what they need our help with, to the point where some of them, we are taking over things that are more agency-like because they furloughed the person who was doing it. And they were about to go completely dark on their social channels or things like that. And so with that splitting of the team, it has allowed our team to see how the owners, because Flip2, it's 3 of us that own it, how involved we are. So I'm on 6 to 7 calls a day with clients with my account management team. So my account management team, feels supported and also understands how you can take someone who's hurting and give them hope, because that's been a lot of what we're focused on right now, is giving people things they can do right now to be useful and impactful. It's been a tough few weeks because I have been on so many client calls, and a lot of them have started with people telling me, I got laid off today, but I wanted to get you guys introduced to this person as a handover. That's excruciating. But really focusing on 2 paths. What can we do immediately to help our partners, weather this storm as much as possible? And then what can we possibly deploy to them as the target of when travel will resume in their area becomes clear, to help them rebound faster and more profitable? Because quite honestly, it needs to be about profitability on the other side of this, to try and dig out from some of the financial burden that this creates.
I think Robert fired himself. Robert, did you fire yourself?
Well, no, yeah, my team, it's interesting because it's only me and I work at home. I've tried to furlough them, but they won't leave. I don't know if anyone has any ideas.
You can't furlough a cat, Robert.
No, Seth is running everything. That's right. He's taking a nap right now.
Robert is one of the few privileged, actually one of the privileged few. And for the first time in my life, in all the crises, because I have been through many crises, I'm not responsible for any employees.
Mm.
I mean, I have hired thousands of employees in my life. So now I'm responsible only for myself and my family. But again, I think that this crisis will change a lot of things.
Hmm.
First of all, many of the hospitality vendors, the broader technology, digital marketing, PR, social media, there will be major consolidation after the crisis is over.
Mm.
Huge consolidation, simply because the crisis has weakened many companies.
Oh, yeah.
Many vendors have laid off people or furloughed people. These people will find jobs outside of the industry. Even there will be even more acute labor shortage of specialized labor shortage in our field. I mean, where do you find full stack software engineers today? It's
Right.
impossible. That's my point. Or whether do you find a level 5 digital marketer that knows it all? Impossible. So social media, the same thing. I mean, just the list goes on. So there will be major consolidation in the industry. On the other hand, I see the OTAs becoming even stronger after all of this. They have the resources, they have the knowledge. Yes, they have furloughed people, but they will come as de facto the winners. And third, I see that the independent hotels will, how shall I put it? There will be a major shift from independent to branded hotels after the crisis. Major shift, because ownership will see that, and believe me, Marriott and Hilton and all the other major hotel chains, they will use in their business development tactics, if you will. They will show, well, during the crisis, we lost only X percentage points or whatever it is. And while you as an independent hotel, you're coming out of it much worse than us. So you will see a major shift, especially toward the softer brands.
Absolutely.
Existing 4 or 5-star hotels converting into soft autograph type of collection brands,
So Max, are you really saying that's what we started with, that it'll become more important to do that local marketing, which didn't happen because there was so much of travel and there was so much of brand recognition? Now with so much of travel restriction, local marketing and your presence locally becomes even more important.
Yeah, I mean that's as far as marketing and revenue management is concerned. Yes, of course. I mean the local marketing, your local feeder markets. This will be the. I already mentioned they will save the day, if you will, as much as anything can save the day post crisis. But I see a definite shift happening from independents to branded. Already in the United States, 70% of hotel rooms, not properties, are branded. In Europe, already surpassed 50%, more than 50% are branded versus independent. Asia Pacific is exactly the same percentage. And we will see the McDonaldization, if you will, of the hospitality industry. There will be branded hotels left and right, and many technology vendors, many marketing vendors, and many of us here in this room, we have to reassess what our focus should be.
I got to tell you, I don't completely agree.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah,
I don't agree, because a lot of our enterprise relationships are with management companies, and I can tell you right now, a lot of hotel owners and management companies feel like their brand has done absolutely nothing for them in this crisis. And because of their brand restrictions on being able to communicate or do these different things, they themselves can't do what they need to do to keep the hotel thriving. I think, yes, you're right. There will be a certain amount of hotels that go to brand, but I think there will be branded hotels after going through this that move away. And I think it'll end up being...
I completely agree.
Let's see.
because
Let's
so
let's talk a year from now.
what I feel is, again, we work with
It's a wager.
biggest
Be willing
brand
to put
and
money on it.
independent. And what I feel is there is going to be, it depends which brand is really stepping outside their comfort zone and doing everything to market and really not putting a lot of brand restrictions. Because
But
what happens
they
is
aren't
when-
going to do that. They
What's
won't
that?
do that
But he'll-
because
I
they
don't
won't do
know.
that because they don't have the central ROI, right? And so
Yeah.
they, for them to investment spend is a rough decision. It's easier for them to just cut heads, batten down the hatches, because again, when you have all these very, very tough restrictions, they control the channels, right? You can only get bookings through their website, and they get credit for it. It doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
Only comes through their GDS chain code, all those sorts of things. So there's a lot of kind of structural credit, and that's not by accident, right? The industry has been set up that way. So
But Robert, there's still a lot of brand, and I can't name the brand, some of the biggest brand, who are going out of their way to allow a lot of flexibility.
right, yes,
Yeah.
the
And
smart
they're
ones,
advertising.
the smart ones are doing that because
They
they're the
would-
ones who
Best
will wind up
Western were
growing.
the first to go out
Yeah.
and offer a lot of assistance to folks.
Yeah.
And Hilton have done a lot on the guest side to make it easier for booking, and Marriott have done a lot of good for the hacking community as well. So there's that.
Absolutely.
Marriott
So
is,
now I heard with Marriott, with every booking, you get a free identity theft. So
Oh,
I
but
mean,
listen,
it's pretty good.
hey,
Yeah.
you talk about it's better to be lucky than good. How lucky are
Yeah.
they that they have this massive breach when there's a global pandemic going on
Yeah.
and no one is
Exactly.
paying
Distraction,
attention?
right?
And
Hey,
no one's
Yeah,
doing
usually
nothing.
they're like, don't
In
tell anyone
fairness-
yet. Let's hold that
in-
information. Now they're like, push it out right now.
Yeah, get it out
This is the
now.
time.
In fairness to
guys,
Marriott, in
this is
fairness
the
to
period.
Marriott,
this is the
no.
period.
In fairness to Marriott, the 5 million records was 1/100th the size of the last breach. So this isn't that
Gotten
bad.
better.
It's a massive
With the
improvement.
measure improvement. But by the way,
There's improvement. There is market improvement there.
you heard that in outside of Amsterdam, people stole a Van Gogh painting,
Yes.
and they used the
Yes.
fact that the museum is shut down. Security operates on a skeleton crew, blah blah blah, and they just stole the painting, which is hundreds of millions of dollars worth. My point is that in time of crisis, the dark forces rise. It's always happened. So that's not a new
Yeah, but
thing,
here's the
but-
difference from other crisis, Max. The brands, the two big ones that we're all thinking about, they don't have the thing that floated them last time. They don't own real estate, and they
No.
don't have those assets to put debt on to cash flow themselves through the problem. Their only way to get through the problem is to cut expenses. They don't have a source of revenue generation.
You guys watched the video of Marriott. You have watched. So it is
Yeah.
brands are going even the hardest time because they, to Ad's point, they don't have the infrastructure to keep right.
And what you run into is the fact that these big brands, and none of them are immune to this, they have all made major cuts, whether it be a Hilton, a Marriott, a Wyndham, and go on down the list. And a lot of those were to marketing departments. Entire marketing departments were
Yep.
slashed.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you as an individual hotel, you were reliant upon that corporate marketing that was
which is gone,
not for
Yeah.
your individual property. So what are you doing at your individual property level? Now that's left up to you.
Oh, and
figure it out.
by the way, you don't
That's
have you don't have access to any of the records of your past guests, so you can't even talk to people that you have that know you. You can't light up any
and-
type of marketing strategy because you can't track it once it hits their void of system, and there's no one on their side to talk to get your campaign set up so the tracking happens. And this is the side that I think I agree with you, Max. I think you will see hotels that fall soft enough to get acquired by REITs will instantly become flagged. But I think any hotels inside the brand systems that are owned by independent entities, like families or groups of business that aren't REITs, I think you're going to see them looking at this long and hard and saying, is the brand truly the safety net I thought they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Financially.
we agree to
For
disagree here,
12% of
but I
12% of
see
room
that
revenue, right?
I see this happening. I mean, guys, if we look at independents in the United States, what percentage of their room nights come from the OTAs?
Mm.
If you do the math and if you multiply this by whatever average commission they're paying, let's say 20%, let's not go to 25%, but 20% blended average, and you rely on 60% of your room nights to come from a major brand, from a major OTA. Then when the brand comes and say, by the way, we generate twice as many room nights through our website than from the OTAs, and we pay 11% commission to the OTAs, not 20.
Mhm.
So you do the math.
Yes, but they get their cut of their brand fee on top of the 11% that's
10%.
being paid to the
Right.
OTA.
Yeah.
So it still ends up costing the same or more to the hotel.
Yeah, but if when the OTAs contribute in total to not more than 12 to 14% of room nights overall at any property, branded property, that's it. The rest come from corporate travel, corporate groups, come from brand.com, direct walk-ins, if you Holiday Inn Express, for example, and so forth. Then, if you do the math, you will see that a 200, and we have done this math, and I have been present to at least 100 presentations by major hotel chains to independent owners, and you will see that when they do the math, a 200 room hotel saves $3 million a year.
I would say a
From all
poorly
of them.
run, poorly marketed
So
200 room hotel, probably. But if someone's an independent hotel that's doing it right, there's no way they're 60% reliant on OTAs. We
Yeah,
have a
no,
lot of
no
clients
way.
that
Yeah,
are
and that's
no,
what-
10%.
but the guys, but
It's a
guys,
crutch, not a safety
let's
net.
be very honest here. How many hotels are doing it right?
Right.
How many
Yeah,
independents
Every
are
one
doing
of
it
my
right? That's my question.
That's a hard
So
The
guys,
independent hotels that do it right can very easily
Elbow
cut
whip Banu.
and market themselves better because they have more agility. They can be more
Of
nimble with
course,
what they're
no.
doing. They can
Correct.
never do.
They can be more
Listen,
creative.
if
Yeah.
I own a hotel, it will be an independent hotel. Don't get me wrong.
Elbow it in, Banu. Get it in.
But no, let's finish.
But
Do it.
Do the
this
elbow
is
drop.
such a passionate debate, and we are debating about something we don't even know. So
That's the
anyway,
most fun.
Welcome to the show.
That's
That's what
right.
this show's about, Banu. If you're not
That
watching
is what we
it,
do on this show, Banu.
I will defer to Banu on one key element to this part, and she gave me this advice when this all first started talking. And it is, if you start optimizing your content now, if you do all the things that you're supposed to be doing now, you are going to gain so much marketing voice ground that even when these come back, whenever they come back, and how they come back, you will have a better presence now and going forward than if you didn't do it. And it's silly for you to think that you fired the very people that were doing it for you earlier. So if you
And
haven't
it's really cheap right now.
for your teams,
yeah.
that's what you should be doing right now. Is making sure you get as much ground as you can while nobody's shooting at you.
And oh, by the
Yeah.
way,
Every case
it-
study, every white paper says that.
it's really
Not
key
one
right
that says the
now.
opposite.
When when the all clear starts to appear, it's all going to get super expensive, and when it's
Mhm.
completely all clear, you're going to see all-time high costs on those
Yeah.
channels
oh, yeah.
because of people needing to fill their rooms or just like spend whatever it takes to get demand. We need it. So yeah, I mean the smart ones now are figuring out how to take advantage of the all-time low cost of acquisition of attention.
Things like
And
not-
not-
gonna be-
building their-
If you look
and
at
building
what, like,
their- yeah, go
if
ahead.
you look
Go
at
ahead.
Google and Facebook and all these other ad platforms, they're really smart. They know that this demand is going to come, and they're going to stoke the fire. So they're giving credits to everyone that's been spending
yeah.
money, so that they want to spend even more. So your CPC that was pre-COVID is going to be double after COVID.
Of course.
once this recovers,
Of
and you've
course,
got to
it will
get
be
ready
double.
for that new
But-
world.
But take a look at what you can do right now. Go and Google hotels in New York right now, a non-branded keyword or phrase in a major market, and I've gotten mixed results. Some days I see one independent hotel that comes up at the top of the list. Some days I see none that
Not
come
a
up at the top
lot
of the
of
list.
times it's none. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
fake it that before.
Well, hey,
Say that
all-
for-
I've enjoyed this. I have to run because I got to go help more
Yes.
customers. It was nice.
Um,
Banu, Max, thank you so
same
much for
here,
Hey,
joining.
guys, save
What
down
about
the
Tammy?
folder.
Tammy joined us too. Thank her
Tammy
as well.
too. Oh,
Tammy
Tammy,
got to
sorry.
stay
I thought you had
It's okay.
bounced
I've
out.
enjoyed
I'm
the
sorry.
conversation.
Okay, guys.
No, nobody let Tammy talk.
Oh wait, yeah, yeah. Wait, Lauren, did you brief Max and Banu and Tammy on if they do have to leave, what they do not do? Just close your browser window. Do not hit any of the buttons on
What
the
is the big
screen.
button in the corner? Yeah, just go to the tab if you need to. But no, before we do start departing on this,
They're
and-
all kill switches. Yeah.
yeah, they're all. First
So
off,
just close
Well,
my browser. Okay.
I have known Lauren for ages and ages, so even if he doesn't train me enough, I will know. And of course, Klaus, I've known
you will know.
ages and ages.
I
Okay,
can't even
guys,
begin to thank you. I needed this more than you know. I have been feeling like I've been getting so many lefts. I needed a right, begging for a right, because you're saying so many things that I've been saying all week, but you've said even more than I didn't even think of. I learned a lot today, and that is a good day when I get to do that. And listening to what you all have said has been remarkable, and it feels good to think that I'm on the right track. I may not be as far ahead along as you all, but knowing that you're seeing it the same way and I'm trying to do the same thing as I talk to people has been profoundly supportive, because it's been a pretty rough week for everybody. So I can't even begin to thank you past that. And it's been almost 2 hours, which is kind of how the show goes its way. It's like you get to enjoy what we do.
And we didn't touch on any of the articles.
And we didn't
Not
touch
one.
on
That's
any
the
Robert
norm.
Ford,
That
which
is the norm.
Yeah.
So
Which is-
yeah.
Anyway, see you guys. Really nice catching up with everyone. And
Pleasure and good luck to everyone. Good luck
you.
to you and your companies, your clients, your families, because it is a crisis that again.
and
please
we'll all get over soon.
Yes. And if
Yeah.
Max, Banu, at any time, Tammy already knows this, so I'm not excluding her from this. She already knows this, but at any time, if you ever want to come join us on the show for any reason whatsoever, it doesn't have to be any formal invitation. It's an open invitation whenever. Please. It has been a true joy today to have you both on with us to talk.
Absolutely, with pleasure. Take care, guys.
Thank
Enjoy.
you. Stuart, before everybody goes, Stuart, flip to where they find the podcast you were talking about.
Oh, so it's ending now, huh? Okay.
Well,
That's
I
fine.
guess
guess we- yeah.
yeah.
We got 10 minutes,
Well,
Lauren. Come
You
on.
can still talk if you want to. I'm okay with
I
it.
need to say a few words today.
Yay, Timmy! And Dean, now we get to talk his pure face.
Oh no, I was just glad to hear Tammy.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, I mean, look, obviously, and Banu actually downplayed. I think she wanted to make us sound younger. I first met Banu in 1994, right? So, and our paths have done this over the years. And obviously, I've worked for her and Anil for the last 13 plus years. So, any chance I get to sit and listen to her talk, even today, I'd rather just sit here and listen to her, and especially her and Max talk through. So, I was fine. The only thing I was going to say earlier, Max made a comment on when he was listing kind of the channels we should be thinking about in communication and marketing, sales, blah, 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 and then technology. I'm seeing a lot of folks, they're not ready to pull triggers today because budgets are so tight, but we're having a lot of conversations about technology stack and marketing stack and, hey, thinking through all of the things like we talked about with Stuart on his podcast earlier this week, whether it's just something as simple as recoding your CRM and making sure that your channels are aligned, but also to, hey, my website sucks, or my booking engine, why do I have 28 different rate codes and 50 different room types? We should streamline this. And so when we're talking about things to do to kind of cover, I think looking at those efficiencies are really important. And even if you're not ready to pull a trigger on a big purchase today, just kind of being mindful of that so that you can't, because that I think is going to help lead to growth in the long run.
Yeah, and I think it's an opportunity too, because a lot of vendors that I'm speaking to are really trying to think through, without being opportunistic, how can they help? Like, what's their stimulus package look like? And a lot of people are either deferring or reducing or eliminating setup fees, or offering, a 90 days free of whatever their product is. So now, if you are and you're able to invest in a new tech stack. Now might be the best time to do it, because a year, 2 years, 3 years from now in recovery, prices are going to go back up again. So you may get a bargain to make a switch now. It may be an opportunity for the hotel.
Yeah.
Now, the whole world is taking a pit stop right now. So if you got to change the tires, like I said in the chat, now's the time to do it. And that means, if you're changing, if you've been looking at a new CRS, I don't do anything with CRSs, so that's completely independent of me. But if you're looking at a new CRS or looking at a website redesign, or you're looking at a new product of any kind, gosh, now's the time to do it. Because even if something goes wrong and it's down, gosh, if you were only getting 1 click a day anyway, who cares, right? You didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
And if you don't have capital to invest in it, now's the time to just look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and do an audit. Like, go through every page of your website and make sure every link works. Make sure you've got the information. Make sure, hey, I've updated my policies, but am I telling people I've updated them? So where should that be? What's the appropriate point in the funnel to put that information? So just spend time working on your foundation. That was one of the pieces of advice that Tammy gave on our podcast earlier this week. It's really good. I think it's something that's a good investment for the future to spend time on right now.
Now, wait, Stuart and Tammy, following up on that, is that a good idea with all the stress associated with the COVID stuff, when they start realizing how crappily set up and all the broken links and all this stuff on there? Is this really the best time to do that, or is that? Yeah,
well,
I'm sure they find really interesting stuff. Like, wait a second, that
health.
Why
the thing is though, you want to come out
getting
with
ranked?
guns blazing. Yeah, exactly, right. You find some gotchas for sure when you're looking through this, and you'll be like, holy cow, I didn't realize I was not doing this, or I was doing this. But you're going to need to be at full speed coming out of this. Everyone's going to need to be maximum efficiency. So, and you're not going to have the time to go back and do it. So
absolutely.
projects that you've put off, not just online, but also on property. What are those deferred maintenance things that you can now put the team on, because you're not getting utilized. So work on your foundation now. This is the time to do that.
I would completely agree, because Robert, is it better that they find out now that they've got all those cracks when we're already
absolutely.
Or is it better that they find out in July when they're trying to figure out why they're 20 points behind everyone else on the start?
Well, yeah, because what's going to happen is, I think, and nobody's really talking about this for the recovery. Okay, you furloughed all of these people. Well, it's not going to just be a hockey stick with all this demand coming back. Like, okay, back to full employment. How do you kind of put that back together? And you're going to have highly taxed resources at the beginning, because I think Dell had some really good stats and saying, normally if you had 22 people running the hotel and they're down to like 7 or 12 or something like that right now if it's still operating. When you start rolling that stuff back, that's going to be really, really hard, especially if, we were saying, cross-train people and let them know how other things work and things like that. I mean, huge opportunities to do that, because all of a sudden you go, well, wait, we've got the digital marketing person who's supposed to be working with the agency. Oh, no, we stopped that. We've got to start that back up. Oh, the person at the agency is not there anymore because they shut down too. And for, these guys are going to be at like square -8, not even knowing where the, their assets are, how they do, the flat out, how does that work? How do we post an ad even is going to be really challenging for a lot of these folks, right? Hey, we came up with an idea. How do we do it? It's like, huh? And then there's going to be all this that got screwed up by so-and-so and that with all the different silos, and those silos are all empty. So yeah, it's going to, all the planning, all the stuff that Stuart said, the scenario planning, figuring this out to go, here's how we're going to do this to come back is going to be absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm. And that goes into the marketing phase of it as well, is that, you always talk about time. If I had the time to do that, I would have, or if I just have more time. This is that time, as you pointed out, Dean, that where everybody, the world took a pit stop. Now it's time to swap out the engine. It's like, okay.
I'm totally feeling that analogy.
I know.
Really
yeah.
I'm going to be saying that long.
Yep. And it's, look at your personas, look at your feeder markets. Not that they're going to be the same, but to look at them with the critical eye of where is it that you might be able to develop your remarketing efforts. Like, okay, based on what we had historically, what does our hotel exist for? And where was it existing before that? Where did they come for that? What time of year did they come for that? And to really put together a game plan. Look at your CRM systems. where you didn't have time to do workflows. Now you have time to do workflows. Or
Right.
when you look at, when you look at your booking engine cycle and so forth, and you realize how ludicrous it was, as you pointed out, Tammy, that you have so many booking types, and why do I have to do 6 clicks to get somewhere? What the hell is this all about? Kind of stuff that you can look at it and take the time now to make those changes and be planned for it. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, if you look at your booking engine, you realize you still got shag carpet in the photos. It might be time to do a photo shoot right now. while
Hey,
no one's
what's wrong with
around.
shag?
Unless your strategy is to go
whoa, whoa.
retro, unless your strategy is to go retro and back to those days before.
There you go.
It's
Hey,
like
and
the
remember
lava lamp.
too, it's been said before, but it's worth saying again too, that remember right now, everybody that's sitting at home, people are starting to think about, boy, there's a whole lot of places I would rather be than here. I can't go there right now. I can't go there just yet, but eventually I'm going to start thinking about that. Now, you've got a lot of furloughed people too, so there's also the economical factor of that. Not everybody has the cash flow to do it. And that's why starting local is going to be so important too. How do you go within local market and become relevant again, be important? Look, there's other businesses around you that have had the same experience that you are having right now. Restaurants that don't have the business, theaters that don't have the business, whatever it may be, and they're looking for partnerships. How can you partner with them and leverage each other, help one another to do things and become relevant? I need a parents' night out. Whatever it may be, and work together to figure that out because everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Just don't
and
take
they've
this
got
up
time.
too
A lot of those small local businesses, if you do go talk to them, pick up the phone and talk to them now, start building cooperatives.
Absolutely.
So you can come
Yes.
out this with a local staycation package, which includes, free movie tickets and free attraction tickets and all this stuff is just going to stimulate. Because coming out of it, not only are people going to be fearful of traveling, so they're going to want to stay closer to home, but also there's going to be this, I think we're seeing on social a lot of sentiment of wanting to help the local community. We see that on the restaurant side a lot already. But I think we can tap into that empathy and say, okay, if you want to travel, have a staycation, come stay at our hotel, support all these local businesses, and here's how you can do it for one low price.
Right.
So I think that's a win-win and that everyone would buy into.
Also,
And the
families
key
need
is-
to visit families. The people that are being unable to see each other, you're going to want families to travel to over and see other families and not necessarily stay at their home, but to be closer to them.
Yeah.
Right.
But and friends as well, like groups that are used to socializing to each other. Like my kids, haven't seen their buddies in a while because some of them are still getting together. But we're like, no, we're not doing that. We're social distancing. But there's going to be this pent-up need. Why not get 4 families that usually hang out, on a Friday night to go stay at a local hotel? If you offer those kind of packages, incentivize it the right way, it's a big opportunity. Obviously not now, but you have to plan for it now because you have to be ready at the appropriate time.
And
I'm gonna
understanding all
sign
the
off.
stuff you have.
Right.
Okay.
Dean, thank you for jumping in.
My time limit has expired.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later,
Thank you.
Dean. Thank you.
Good to see you.
No, I was just going to say, maybe you had just replaced all your TVs, right? And you have these beautiful 80-inch high def, whatever. Okay, that's great, but you can do certain things with. I don't know. You talk to the local film festival, which has probably been canceled or something like that. And you go, hey, here are recommendations of what to watch and things like that in cooperation with them. They like the exposure. And then you say, we have all these TVs. You can't watch it on these, but here's what we would be doing if we could, we would be watching these movies. There are lots of ways.
Does this mean that after this whole thing passes by, you're going to come down and visit me? Because first thing you said was, "Oh man, if it wasn't for the COVID thing, I'd be traveling." But the state's locked down, so that means you're going to come down and say hi.
We're all coming down to do a live show with you in person. When social distancing is ended, we're going to come.
Okay, that sounds like fair trade.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be afraid of when it's like, wait a second, I like this social distancing. I don't know where all these people are. Stuart will be going, Lauren, stop hugging me.
I will never say that. I'm not a touchy person. I'm not a big hugger in general. But there's one person I will always hug when I see, and that is Lauren Gray.
That's me.
It's because I'm 6'2", right? So anyone I hug, it's usually me swallowing them up. But Lauren's bigger than me, so he's one of the few people in the world. There's one other guy, one of our Fueligans called Shad, is bigger than me as well, and he gives the best hugs as well. So Lauren and Shad could hug
Okay.
off against each
Ca-
other, and I would
caveat,
be in heaven.
caveat, probably not the best policy to be hugging your staff necessarily, but again, you can.
Hey, I told you, Gilligan's are a family, man. We hug, we cry together, we drink together, we do it all.
Yeah, hugs are good. I'm looking forward to when that day comes back again. Hey, so okay, Tammy, if you could, because we didn't get a chance to ask Banu a little bit about Milestones, so people understand why we keep talking about you guys.
Sure. So Milestone, we are a digital agency, predominantly for the hospitality industry, although we do service clients outside of hospitality as well. And we're also a software provider. So we have a lot of our own tools, especially in the SEO world. And Banu is known as one of the premier experts as far as SEO. She speaks at a lot of search engine conferences. She's a brilliant mind, one of the smartest, most hardest working people I've ever met. So that would be Banu and Milestone.
Yep. And Fuel podcast, software, team, Fueligans, Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, so I mean, we're actually very similar to Milestone, but we've been collaborating on a lot of stuff recently, and we're excited that partnership's being fostered and continue to grow, because we don't have a lot of overlap on the software side, and philosophically we agree a lot and feel like it's a big enough ocean on the marketing side. But Fuel is a digital agency, but more importantly, we offer a lot of software, so booking engine, CRM products, and a mobile app, which we feel like is something that a lot of people are going to be interested in using for digital key, bypassing the front desk, come out of this crisis. So put a lot of effort and extra development resources into that product at the moment. But more importantly, for everyone listening, Fuel is a resource. So we have a weekly, used to be a weekly podcast, it's a daily one right now, where we talk to experts in the industry, or we just drill into tactical advice to help you through this crisis. So we've published a ton of content in the last week, and numbers are through the roof. We're getting a lot of really good feedback. So fueltravel.com/podcast is where you can subscribe to that. And we just did an episode, I think it was episode 141. We had Milestone on, we had Tammy on giving her sage advice. We've had Lauren on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We thought about having Robert on the show at one point, but then we realized it would probably be a 2 or 3 hour show, and the audience wasn't ready for that yet. So,
well, that
maybe
would
one
be
day
the
we
introduction. I need to be like one of those Netflix documentaries, like the seven.
That's
Yeah,
it.
the
Like
seven.
the
You know,
Part series.
Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, you know,
but we also have a resource page that folks can tap into. It's fueltravel.com/resources. And we've just aggregated a ton of content from a lot of really smart people, smarter than us, around the industry. So you can filter it now. We just updated the filter so it works better on mobile yesterday, but you can see all the latest content from around the industry, from all our vendor partners that we work with, and some we don't. So fueltravel.com/resources and fueltravel.com/podcast.
I hate to admit this, but even though you were an award-winning podcast and were already quite good, you really didn't get legitimized until Tammy came on. I mean,
We
Well,
finally made it.
No,
I did point it
that's
out on
right.
the show, for sure.
That was one of the
really why we created
strategies.
the show.
That
This
was one of
was
the
a
Fuel
3-year
strategies. Yeah,
Yeah.
they
3-year
were
plan.
sitting there
How can we get
scenario
Tammy
planning.
on the
Yeah.
show?
How do we legitimize our business? Oh, we could work more with Milestone. That might rub off.
It wasn't even just Milestone. It was specifically Tammy. When we started the show
Specifically,
years ago, it was the long game just to be able to talk to Tammy.
Yeah.
That was
Exactly.
Enough interest that we'd be able to get Tammy on the show. Mr. Robert, where can they know about you?
Rockcheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole on social media. And next week, Focusrite. We're trying to do some interesting stuff. Everybody's saying it's much too early to predict when this is going to end, and the dynamics of this. Working with some data scientists, and we put together some models. In March, we're focusing, city by city. We wound up with the RevPAR drop in March for New York within I think it was 3 points of what actually came in, which was not bad considering.
a lot more accurate than most. For sure.
March 1, the forecasts were like maybe a -8% drop in RevPAR, and it wound up coming in at the model said -69, and it came in at -66. So, and we have the charts, and you'll see it when the first one's published. You just go week by week, and it's oh my God, right? So anyway, we've looked at that, and then I probably shouldn't say this, but nobody's watching. Nobody watches this show, Tammy. You realize that, right?
Nobody
But that's okay. No, but then I think we're going to do Singapore after that, because Singapore is doing everything's still closed, right? But the signals that we're looking at aren't just hotel competitive set stuff. It's everything else. It's GDP, it's number of cases, and how this stuff is starting to open up. So yeah, we're going to keep tweaking it, and we're going to be wrong a lot. But the focus is really going to be, can we actually start modeling a 90-day forward-looking window on this?
Wow.
So that's it's pretty interesting, and we're going to be doing markets all over the world, and small ones and large ones, and whatever, and see what we come up with. But it's
I had a conversation yesterday with someone, and they said, "Do you know anyone in the industry that really understands data and how to project what's going on?" I was like,
"No, nobody. No,
funny
no,
you should ask.
no.
Funny you should ask."
I sent him a note back. I sent him a note back, and I did tell them, Stuart. I said I had no idea that you had really gotten out of prison at this point. I just was really shocked that you had even. I didn't know they even. I thought you were in solitary. So
even though we didn't get to this, I do want to put a plug in for Robert's list that he has been.
Oh yes, thank you, Lauren.
Yes.
And that is bit.ly/rockcheetah lowercase. So it's bit.ly/rockcheetah. We didn't get this, and it is a shame because it is an excellent list, and it's an excellent list every week that he does of top topics and content.
Testimonial Lou from booking.com said it was the best industry newsletter, and I could use his name, and that was not solicited. So I got that.
Wow.
I don't think I owe him money. I don't know. I've got to go check. Maybe I forgot I was supposed to buy him a drink.
Well, also too, I want to give a compliment to Stuart.
Celebrity endorsement.
Yeah, to
exactly.
Stuart, and and please tell Banu this as well. The real joy of the past few weeks, if you want to say out of what to pull out of this, is the fact that as an industry, as us servicing an industry, is the fact that everybody's trying to help each other. We're not worried about it's not like, oh, I got to squeeze this nickel or I got to get this penny. It's like, how can I help? How can I help? Stu, you were the first to bring it up to everyone's attention. It's like you guys approach to everyone you're doing. It's like, it's not about whether we bill you, it's whether or not we can help you. And all of us have just opened the deck and opened the cards of anything that we can do and anything that we can share that can be helpful. It's not about proprietarily, well, that's one of our top secrets, we can't do that. Or it's like literally, how can we collaborate? And you all have run that vanguard a lot between Milestone and what Fuel's doing. I know Ed, if he was here, I'd say the same thing to him. There are companies that have really risen to this. I mean, I won't mention other companies that haven't, but for you all, you have really done an amazing job of.
I was going to say, I get exposed to some of them that don't, maybe more than you guys do, and some of the distressing. I had a conversation with a group that. It was stunning because we were talking about housing medical workers and things like that in quarantine quarters. And these guys were like, no, we do not want the stigma of people dying of the prospect of people dying in our hotels. So we're just going to close and do the furlough. And you're like, what? That's just so off the chart.
Max had a great point about that, where he was like,
if only surgeons did that. I'm afraid that person might die. I don't think I should try to do that bypass because they might not make it. This is a tough one. Let them go. I mean, it's just insane. So.
This is really a time when you can see who's in this industry for the people, right? There are people that are in it for the money, and there's people that are in it because they want to help people. And I think this is showing everyone where their true loyalties are. And I think there will be a reckoning after this. I think there's going to be software vendors. I think it's going to be hoteliers that are going to struggle to survive after this because people will have long memories, and not specifically what they did, but the emotional connection or how they made people feel during this. What was their role? Right. What responsibility did they take on? How did they share the burden with others? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this. But there's some people doing a lot of good stuff. Some people really not treating people the way they should.
Like it was pointed out, 9/11 is not as bad as this is, but I still know people that will never do business with certain companies simply because of how they were treated by those companies during that time. And even though the people might not even be the same people in that company anymore, the fact that the company took that stance is identified with them. It's forever burned on their forehead that is somebody that they will not do business with. So you're right, very right. So
the travelers won't remember that you were giving them double membership points, right? They're gonna remember how you made them feel, what did they do for you, and that yes, you were able to. Even the cruise companies are getting. I saw some stats. It's something like, close to 50% of the people were going, no, we'll take the credit for the cruise, and some were saying, obviously the cruises are shut down, but they're like, okay, I can't remember which one. Maybe I can't remember if it's Carnival or RCL. They're giving them like 125% credit on the next cruise, right? Just to hang in there. So maybe it's a little, it might be a little bit of a thing where they go, okay, I'm getting better value. But again, if they don't want to get on a cruise ship, they're done. They lose that person for forever. So they're doing smartly. And then again, all these guys are just shutting everything off. And
so with that in mind,
probably
thank
not
you.
the best long-term strategy.
2 hours, and I mean that's the kind of
can we just mention the Boop? Because we already covered the rut row with Marriott's thing, but we got to cover the Boop this week was the 50 best travel related movies, because everybody's trying to, I think people are starting to get to the bottom of their Netflix queues going, oh geez, another documentary on the cheese making process. Well, what do you know? So but I think that you can go look and probably find some interesting films in there that are dealing with unique locales. So anyway,
I've been asked, and then I do apologize for everyone. A lot of the audiences have shifted, but there was a lot of questions and comments coming through on the different platforms we were simulcasting on. I just did not want to interrupt the conversation. It was really fun to watch Max and Banu just, it was enjoyable.
If Amazon...
I'm not usually the one that stays quiet in these things, and I can tell you, I was sitting there just enjoying the conversation that they were having. So
what I wanted to get was like a video game where you could have like an octagon cage match between like Fuel and Next Guest and Miles, and just watch them go at it digitally.
I know. We would triple team the bad guys. I think all three of us are doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think that's for that.
Take on the bad guys.
We were jumping off the rope with the folding chair over the head of one of those big bad guys. Yeah.
I was asked repetitively where to have this playback, and of course it's going to be on hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Tammy, of course, I'll send you an upload file if you want to excerpt anything out of this. I think there was some fabulous points that were made by the conversation, so usable, and I'm going to push this around a lot because there really was some just excellent advice from both of them. Everybody, really. I'm just saying that, it's just being that they were the guests for today. It was really nice to hear them talk. So I will send that link up to it as well. Thank you, everybody. And with that in mind, I guess we'll wrap up for this. Again, Stuart, thank you for being here. Robert, always, and Tammy, always. It made my week, to be honest with you. It really did.
Awesome.
It's good
Thanks
listening
so much,
to
Lauren.
Good listening to smart people, right?
Yeah, isn't it?
For a change, right?
And Stuart too. Yeah, so.
Well,
It's just-
I like that he said
it's the
both of us
accent.
had a lot of good points, and it was just the other two. The rest of us, none of us.
The rest of us were just, we were just fodder on the outside, but no. We always have good
the
points.
Falkland Islands accent is just it's endearing.
I thought it was Papua New Guinea. I wasn't sure.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry, my bad. I think Stuart is from New Guinea. You're right.
Hey, I didn't hear you make fun of Max's accent at all.
Oh no.
Stuart, do you know any other Bulgarians aside from Max? Yeah, no, you don't.
Yeah, we
know
actually have
that.
I do actually. We have
Oh,
an
you do?
office in Sofia, Bulgaria. Yeah, we have some developers out there. Yeah.
Oh,
I've
very
actually
good.
been to Sofia, Bulgaria. Yeah. To the office.
well, there you go. Back at you. All right, everyone. Thank you all. We hope to see everyone next week, 11:30 Eastern, for show number 244. Till then, bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Lauren.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, Tammy.